Federal Drive is presented by GEHA, Government Employees Health Association, proudly providing health and dental benefits to federal employees and their families. Visit GEHA.com.
Military spouses have long faced challenges that come with frequent moves, career disruptions, and balancing family life during deployments. Now, a new White House executive order creates the President's Military Spouse Commission, a panel charged with developing recommendations on issues ranging from employment and childcare to healthcare, education, and housing. The administration says the commission will give military spouses a direct voice in shaping federal policy, but questions remain about what authority it will have and how quickly it can deliver results. Federal News Network's Rachel Cohen joins me now with more details. Rachel, thanks for being here.
Hello, Terry.
I feel like we've been around this block a couple of times, but at the highest level, what is this time around the President's Military Spouse Commission designed to accomplish?
Yeah, it's a perennial issue through, across multiple administrations, right? So this is kind of the latest stab at the topic. So this commission would be chaired by Jennifer Hegseth, who is Pete Hegseth, Defense Secretary's wife. It would include more than 20 spouses of military and civilian leaders across the military, enlisted officer, Joint Chiefs of Staff, all of their spouses, and the spouse of the Secretary of Homeland Security as well, because Coast Guard falls under Homeland Security. So, they're really trying to get a broad cross-section of experiences, not just focusing on officers, not just focusing on one kind of subset. But, the biggest difference is that it creates a White House level, presidential level advisory committee, whereas previous efforts have been led, by or housed within DoD, housed within the services. So it elevates it a little bit more. It was established by executive order, and so it has a broader mandate. And what we have yet to see is there was already a DoD family panel that was kind of put on pause because the administration wanted to review all of the various advisory panels across the department. So it's a little unclear if they're going to dovetail, if this is going to supersede them, how it's going to fit into the ecosystem of all the people who are already thinking about spouse issues.
The executive order highlights issues like employment and childcare and education and healthcare and housing. Those have all been prominent issues that turn up in military families surveys. Does the executive order highlight a priority order there, or which ones are most important?
It doesn't highlight a particular priority. It says, go out, talk to people, see what they think the biggest issues are, and certainly the members of this committee can also bring their own lived experiences too. Employment is certainly at the top of the list for many people. Unemployment and underemployment as well have been above 20% for military spouses for years. And there's been a lot of work at the federal level and within the services and whatnot to make licenses, more portable across state lines. So if you're licensed to perform a skill in Maryland and you get, you PCS to Washington State or something, you can still perform that job there. But, there's still a lot of other factors, childcare, also something DoD has been working on to, some success. And housing affordability is also, a growing problem in a lot of locations, right? You PCS somewhere new, you're going to be there for a few years, but are you able to cover the cost of living, especially if you're only a one-income household, right? If you're facing the unemployment issue as a spouse.
Rachel, the commission is supposed to provide recommendations to the president rather than try to implement policy itself. Are there recommendations that could realistically translate into changes across the federal government and the military services?
Yeah, so they're going to have to focus on things that the executive branch actually has authority to do things about, right? In terms of changes to law, they can recommend things to Congress, but that would still have to go through, probably as part of the NDAA or something like that. So areas where the executive branch could kind of make moves are, making it easier to work remotely if you're a federal employee. There's folks on the Hill that have been asking the administration for more information on that recently, improving how federal agencies coordinate during PCS season. If you have, a spouse who is a federal worker who is moving somewhere else, with their military member, and doing more to kind of streamline access to childcare, streamline access to healthcare, through HHS, through, whatever other levers that they have.
You mentioned military spouse employment and unemployment and underemployment, and you've also said PCS several times. Many of the family welfare studies attribute a lot of these problems at the root to the PCS cycle, making military families start over every 2 or 3 years, which uproots spouse employment, which uproots children, which makes housing affordability a perennial problem. Are there new approaches here that you think this group will recommend?
I think it'll be interesting to watch, how what they try to do in terms of furthering efforts that are already underway to limit PCSs. The Air Force multiple years ago rolled out an initiative that said, hey, if you find somebody who wants to trade jobs with you so you can stay at your base, or, if you want to move to a specific base because it's closer to your family or whatever, the services have been trying to put a little bit more of that stability in place while also keeping in mind the fact that if they need you to go somewhere, they need you to go somewhere. And so, I am interested to see if the committee does anything, to kind of further that.
Rachel, does the executive order require this group to have public meetings, or does it set a deadline for reports or out briefs on what they're finding or what their recommendations are? I mean, how will people know if they're doing anything or making a difference?
Yeah. I think on the one hand, because it's a presidential commission, there's obviously interest at that level in touting it as something created, because the administration wants to show that it's doing good things for spouses, right? So I do think that they will want to come out and discuss what they're talking about. They are also going to make reports to Congress, I believe, annually. So, that will be a record of what they're doing.
That's Federal News Network's Rachel Cohen. Rachel, thanks for giving us the update. We'll look forward to following up.
Yeah, thank you.
You can find Rachel's story at federalnewsnetwork.com.